Welcome back to The Explainer. If you've spent, well, literally any time on social media recently, you've definitely seen the explosion of those hyper-edited, super fast-paced short-form videos. You know the ones. Bold captions perfectly synced to the speaker's voice, strategic zoom-ins, completely seamless cuts. It feels like magic, right? Or at least the work of some massive team of human editors grinding around the clock. But let's be real, the actual reality is way more sci-fi. What you're actually watching is the output of an incredibly deep, sophisticated AI content pipeline, one that starts at the microscopic level of a human sound and ends with automated global distribution. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how that entire pipeline works. It brings up a really fascinating question. How does an AI actually, watch and listen to a video to make it go viral? We kind of just assume the AI vaguely understands what's happening and slaps some text on the screen. But beneath the surface of those flashy viral clips, there is a super rigorous sequence of neural networks happening. The AI doesn't just hear words, it's isolating phonemes down to the millisecond. It doesn't just see a face, it detects scene changes and visual pacing. So we're going to deconstruct this whole illusion and look at the actual data engine powering today's creator economy. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, fixing flawed transcription. Second, perfecting timestamps. Third, automating viral edits. Fourth, scaling distribution. And finally, putting it all together in the complete pipeline. Starting off with part 1, fixing flawed transcription and the limits of standard AI. Let's start right at square one, getting the words right. Because you absolutely cannot have perfectly timed captions if the AI doesn't even know what's being said. Now, models like OpenAI's Standard Whisper are incredible, no doubt, but they have some pretty critical limitations with real-world, long-form content. Standard Whisper reads audio in these rigid 30-second sliding windows. And the problem there? That 30-second mark often lands right smack in the middle of a word. When Whisper tries to guess what that cutoff word is, it starts to hallucinate, and suddenly its internal timestamps just drift off track. Enter WhisperX. WhisperX uses something called Voice Activity Detection, or VAD for short. It scans the whole file first, finds the exact moments of silence, and makes its cuts right there. Then it merges those clips into optimized chunks. Because every single chunk starts and ends on silence, they can actually be processed all at once in parallel batches. This cut and merge trick is a massive game changer. It makes processing up to 70 times faster than real time, completely wiping out those hallucinated errors. So, the WhisperX pipeline basically operates like this elegant little assembly line in 4 exact steps. Step 1, voice activity detection, chops the raw audio perfectly at those silent gaps we just talked about. Step 2, the Whisper model transcribes those clean chunks into raw text. Step 3, a totally different model steps in for forced alignment, mapping that text back to the exact milliseconds of sound. And finally, step 4, speaker diarization tags exactly whose voice belongs to which words. It's incredibly efficient at turning raw sound waves into structured, usable data. Actually, let's pause on that final step for a second, speaker diarization. By definition, this is just the process of splitting an audio recording into segments by speaker. It answers the ultimate question, who speaks when? If you've got a complex environment like a podcast with 3 or 4 people talking over each other, standard AI gives you this giant, unreadable wall of text. But specialized frameworks, like Pyanout inside WhisperX or the dedicated Whisper DRE model, they actually figure out the distinct voices. They definitively assign text to a specific speaker, which means your multi-speaker transcripts actually make sense. Moving right along to part 2, perfecting timestamps, or the art of forced alignment. So, simply knowing what was said, that's not enough anymore for modern video editing. You need to know the exact millisecond a word was uttered if you want to pull off those highly engaging visual effects. This is where forced alignment comes in, and it's absolutely fascinating. Think of it kind of like a karaoke machine. The AI isn't trying to guess the words anymore. Whisper already gave us the text. Instead, WhisperX uses a specialized model called Wev2Wave2 to map out the individual speech sounds, the phonemes, in the audio. It scores how likely each phoneme is and then snaps each known word onto its true position in the sound file. But it does have one really funny failure mode. Because it relies on the sounds of ordinary dictionary words, it completely struggles with non-dictionary stuff. If someone says the year 2014 or something like $13, the alignment model is like, wait, I have no phonemes in my dictionary for those digits. In those cases, it just borrows the timestamp of the nearest neighboring word to survive. But even with that minor quirk with numbers, the accuracy is just staggering. WhisperX hits a 93.2% precision rate on word segmentation in telephone speech, and that's evaluated within a tiny 200 millisecond tolerance. Over 93%. To put that into perspective, this extreme word-level accuracy isn't just a neat tech demo. It is literally the engine powering the entire creator economy right now. Without this level of precision, those dynamic captions you're watching on TikTok or Reels would lag behind the audio and just look incredibly sloppy. Okay, part 3, automating viral edits and turning all this data into actual engagement. Now that we've got a flawless, micro-timed, speaker-labeled transcript, let's zoom out a bit. How do we take all that dense data and turn it into human engagement? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can break down that super popular Alex Hormozy style aesthetic into an automated toolkit. AI tools use those exact timestamps we just talked about to drive visuals. The talking head focus auto-reframes the video to keep the speaker dead center for eye contact. The dynamic captions use the forced alignment data to emphasize keywords with popping colors right as they're spoken. Strategic zoom effects trigger automatically to highlight big statements. And because the AI knows the transcript inside and out, it can just wipe out filler words, the ums and ahs, in literal seconds with one click. The true advantage of bridging deep audio AI with these visual layout algorithms is leverage. The promise of platforms like Kuzo.ai is the ability to take one long video and transform it into a whole week's worth of high-quality, viral short-form clips in minutes. It's a massive time saver, for sure. But more importantly, it gives you consistency. The AI ensures that your brand's look, the pacing, the text style, it all stays totally uniform across your entire library, perfectly optimized for whatever platform you want to conquer. Which brings us to part 4, scaling distribution, the multi-platform megaphone. So, we have the transcript, we have the viral edits. Now let's zoom out one final time to the macro level, because creating great content is only half the battle. Distributing it is the whole other shebang. The sheer scale of these multi-platform workflows is wild. The AI content pipeline doesn't just stop at rendering an MP4. Tools like Repurpose.io can monitor your Instagram Reels and push them directly to Amazon Video to create shoppable drafts. They monitor your YouTube and auto-publish straight to TikTok. Even your disappearing 24-hour video stories can be auto-repurposed right into Snapchat. One single video can travel across the entire internet without you even lifting a finger. And the capabilities of these distribution platforms, they're expanding constantly. For instance, Repurpose.io recently pushed its limits to allow up to 5-minute videos directly to Snapchat's Stories and Spotlight. 5 whole minutes. That's 300 seconds of creative room, pushed totally automatically. This means the AI pipeline isn't just for 15-second sound bites anymore. We're talking about substantive, medium-form content being pushed across networks all at once. But, as you probably know, blindly spamming content everywhere is a really great way to get your accounts banned. That's why the final stage of this pipeline relies on smart automation safeguards. The AI isn't just blindly posting, it's optimizing. It auto-writes your social media captions. And crucially, it uses account protection caps, like limiting itself to 3 videos an hour, so you don't get flagged as a spam bot. It uses smart retry logic for when TikTok servers inevitably hiccup. It even does back-end video engineering, like auto-upsampling frame rates if your video is under 24 frames per second. Basically, it acts as your own tireless AI social media manager. Finally, part 5, the complete pipeline, going from micro to macro. Let's bring this whole narrative together. We've gone super deep into neural networks and all the way up into cloud distribution. It's like a giant puzzle. Here is the journey of your content through the AI pipeline, mapped out by time. In milliseconds, models like WhisperX use forced alignment to map phonemes to the sound wave. In seconds, voice activity is detected, silences are cut, and everything is batched and transcribed by Whisper. Zooming out to minutes, application layers take that data to auto-clip, zoom, and style the footage. And finally, over the course of hours, the video is securely scheduled, capped to avoid spam filters, and fanned out globally across every platform. Data just flows seamlessly from a microscopic human utterance directly to a massive global audience. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from our source material. You're not just repurposing content, you're unleashing its full potential to dominate the short-form landscape. The barrier to high-end viral production, it's basically demolished at this point. The pipeline is fully built and just waiting. So the real question is, in a world where literally everyone has a global megaphone, what unique ideas are you going to feed into it to ensure you're actually heard? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.